Thanks everyone for having me here. And the topic I think for today is redefining reality. But there is also the clause of singularity which comes along with it. Now, reality, what is reality is maybe yesterday could be very different today. But when we speak about singularity, so singularity is a stage where through your artificial intelligence, machines and robots, they become so superior that they can actually take over the humans in terms of their capabilities, and then they start guiding the humans. Now, is that going to be a reality? At least it's very, very hypothetical now. I don't think there will ever be a stage, or even if there is, probably it's going to be centuries down the line, when actually robots have the capability of taking over humans. And this has been a theme if you look at Stanley Kubrick's 1968 movie, which is 2001: A Space Odyssey. So there he was speaking about the computer, the space shuttle becoming so intelligent that it understands that a human can actually destroy it, or that's a threat, and hence it shuts it down. But 2001 is gone. We have seen the likes of Terminator movies by James Cameron. So the first Terminator movie was sometime in the mid-80s, then there was something in the mid-90s. And it spoke about 2029, which is very much down the line. We haven't seen anything which is very superior, any machine which is so superior that it can still take over, the human intelligence. And the similarity has been the machines which have been portrayed, they have learned from their surroundings. They have taken the input from their surroundings, they have enhanced their intelligence, and they have actually tried to act based on that intelligence. That could be some of a reality, but it can never be a situation where the humans are actually become completely taken over. So it's something which can probably be in fiction. It can be in maybe some of the very technical papers you publish at the in the universities. But any meaningful contribution of of artificial intelligence actually becoming making the human intelligence obsolete is very different. See, what we speak today is artificial narrow intelligence, which is any machine or any program that is actually meant for a specific task. And if you talk about the human brain, that is something which is called AGI, or artificial general intelligence. So narrow intelligence, where if you are looking at your mobile phone, then their ads come up based on your interaction with the ad. The next set of ad may or may not come up. That is very much possible. What is also possible today is actually the Google Translate. I mean, you give an input and you give an output. Those things are very much possible. But artificial general intelligence, which is actually mimicking the human brain, that, no one has yet been able to mimic the human brain in its entirety. Regardless of whatever the claims are. There are parts of the brain, parts of the tasks which have been automated, like, identifying someone, you have the scanners, text to speech or speech to text, those kind of softwares are there. But, complete artificial general intelligence has not yet been a reality, and, it will need multiple technological breakthroughs, multiple different kinds of medical breakthroughs, if at all, it has to be any reality in the future. Now, see, the human beings, those of us who actually grew up in the 80s, they would have been familiar with many of the debates which used to go around in those days, and those were like the computers were coming. So there were the debates saying that whether computers are going to be a bane or a boon for the society, especially for a society like us. We used to call our India, it was a poor nation. We did not have the euphemism of saying it's a developing country. But whether it's going to be a bane or a boon, and what we see today is very, very different. Computers are there, they have gone there, they are very much there. Whatever the DOS systems were there in the 80s, they have enhanced. You have the graphical user interfaces, GUIs, and there are many different things which the computer can do today. But the humans are actually still telling them that this is the piece that is to be done. What we see as form of the artificial intelligence today is a lot to do with supervised learning. So what is supervised learning? It is that you give an input A and you get an output B. So I was referring to the mobile phone ads which come up, right? Depending on your interest in a particular ad, which goes as the input, and then there is the algorithm which can give you the output, saying that, okay, if it is a similar kind of an ad, this might be of interest to this person. If you are doing a search based on, say, the airfares, you have done it once. If you do it again a second time on the same device, it's probably going to detect the history and say, okay, so this is the person who is actually interested in this kind of airfare at this time, and hence the airfares that will show you that might be very different from what you can see on a different machine where you haven't conducted a search. But that is actually that very artificial, the supervised learning, saying that, okay, this particular device is sending this signal, so this is the output which I can expect. But supervised learning is very, very dependent on the kind of data actually you are putting in, and it can never be a very, very, there is yet to come across an application which is where it can very, very critical. So, for example, a self-driving car, right? I mean, we all hear of these self-driving cars of Tesla. So you actually feed in millions of images saying that, okay, this is a tree, this is a pedestrian, this is the pavement, this is at 900 meters, this is at, say, 500 meters, hence. And so those millions of images actually train the car. So we say that, it's a self-driving car. And the self-driving car can probably work very well in a controlled atmosphere. So, for example, you have maybe you go to a golf course where, the landscape is very defined, there are very few people there. There you can have maybe a self-driving car, for example. You can also have a self-driving car in somewhere, maybe in the runway, I mean, in a restricted area of the runway. But it's very difficult for yet, and there is no self-driving car which we'll find on the highways. The reason being that there are so many different variables which you actually cannot program to make it a meaningful, training to the car. So, for example, there's a pedestrian who is waving its hand. You can put in actually multiple images of someone waving the hand, whether it is a fire worker, say, or a construction worker, right? I mean, he's waving his hand so that you stop the car, or maybe he is asking the car to go. So that kind of image training, it can be very, very different depending on person to person. You can also have traffic junctions which are not actually manned by automated signals. There is a police person, who is standing there. He's guiding your car to go. How his image, one person's image and the other person's image, for that, the car to know all that, it is yet to go to that stage. And these are just examples. All I'm saying is that, the number of variations which are there for a machine to actually become completely automated is vast. And see, our world always keeps changing, so the variables will also keep changing. So, say a person for whom, I mean, and humans also learn, right? Our brains are also very, very adaptive. So, our learning rate is much faster than, the way that artificial or supervised learning, how it, it reacts. So, for a person, with some amount of training, he can drive a car, he can easily recognize if there is a pedestrian who is, waving his hand, what are the barricades, if there is someone who is breaking the signal. But for an automated car to do that, that's not going to be possible. So, I mean, maybe it's going to be possible, in some day, but I don't think there will be any government who will give the permission, at least in the near future, that you can actually be at the back seat and let the car drive on its own. Where we are finding this supervised learning to be coming in is, as I said, like Google Translate or your Alexa. So you feed in multiple words, and then the system trains itself so that you understand. So whenever you say, "Hi Alexa," maybe from the voice of the person, it can identify what are the top 3 things that the person wants, like how is the weather, those kind of things, those kind of outputs you can get. But again, beyond that, which is very critical for the other people around you, we are still miles to go ahead, regardless of the stories you hear. And as I say, human beings have always evolved through history. They can control multinationals, they control countries, and for that, the interactions which are needed between, say, different robots, different systems, those kind of interactions it's very difficult to be mimicked. Your jobs, which will you can almost spontaneously do them without having much of a second thought, like driving a car, or say identifying whether it's a defect, an object is defective or not. Those kind of things where you don't need to put in too much of a thought, through supervised learning you can, those can be automated. But wherever, and those are being automated. So earlier we used to have the systems of people typing in their invoices in different companies, right? You get a invoice from a supplier, you type it in, and then you have the supplier, you pay the supplier. Today you can always scan the invoice. There are robotic programs which will read and input the required fields into the relevant system, say an SAP system or something, whichever your purchase system which is there, and the payment can also be automatic. So those are things which are very, very manual. But people always go from structured task to unstructured task. So what is a structured task today can always become an unstructured, or rather what is an unstructured task today can become a structured task tomorrow. But there will be something new which will come in. So today it's very difficult for an AI system to understand, say, it's there in a board meeting. You take in whatever are the conversations of the board meeting and then you come up with a decision. It's not possible. There are too many different variables which are there, which as of now, and people will also not have the confidence to take that and try it out in the market. So this is something which I think it's like singularity, and it's probably very, very hypothetical now. But I think as students, what you also need to understand is that in today there is so much of disruption which is also happening on a very day-to-day basis, and you need to understand new technologies which I started working with, like database and programming or ERP systems. They have changed, and they have changed dramatically. So you need to always enhance your learning. So if you hear of Andrew Ng, for example, or many other people, right? They will always say that maybe earlier it always used to be the case that your 4 years of university, you can actually do maybe 40 years of your career. That is probably going to change. And I have got people in my organization, after 8-9 years, they will always take a break. They will go in for some higher learning. Maybe they'll do an MTech or do a PhD. Certifications almost everyone does. And this is something which you need to keep up with. So earlier, how will you probably plan your career? You will start off with you get a job, then you think, okay, I'm going to do this for maybe 4 or 5 years, then I go in for an MBA, and then wherever I join, I'm not going to go in for higher education. And that's how you plan your career, you plan your commercials, you plan your houses and your family growth, etc. Those days, that thinking will definitely change. It is changing now. So I think you should be mentally be prepared that you probably work maybe somewhere 10 years, go and take a break and go in for some dramatically different different kind of a training program just to upskill yourself for the next technology which is there. That is, I think, and if that happens, as I say, like, automatically you are always you will be the person who is going to control your career or control the AI systems. Not the other way around. Jobs won't control you. It's like you who is going to be in control. In the society, definitely it's going to have an impact. I think people who are educated, who can actually train themselves, gear themselves up for the next big thing or next technology, they are the ones who are actually going to benefit out of this. But as I said, like, people who do very routine things, for example, maybe a driver or even in the case of manual laborer, or maybe even clerical jobs. You see, clerical jobs have all gone out of the banks. They are all again going to be reduced even more. So it's going to create that kind of a shift. Maybe the richer will be even more richer, and the divide between the not so fortunate section of the society vis-a-vis the more people who are say top 10% of the pyramid, that divide is going to grow because of the impact of AI. Apart from all the social interactions and all that which I'm sure you come across today on your cell phone, saying that because you are so hooked to your cell phone, the social interaction that has actually gone down. So I'm sure you read about all that, but that is also another way of life which is probably going to be impacted. But I don't think at any point of time our lives will change, the way we interact with our surroundings, with our friends, definitions of friends will change. But I don't think there will be any point, at least certainly not in our lifetime, or maybe in your lifetime also, where the singularity actually becomes a reality. Thank you so much. Again, thanks for having me.